We get to open up some more stuff. What do we got here? What do we got here? Ooh. We got some goodies. That's the second compressor harness for our airlift 3P system. Set that to the side. Stickers. We've got the hardware kits, all the elbows. We've got all the bag brackets, drain valve, all the connections. We've got the noise cancelers for our compressors. More connections. But what I need is these 2,500 pound bags for the back. So I get a lot of questions. Do I have to put 2,500s or 2,600s on the back? And the answer to that is you can do either one of them. I think a 2,500 bag lifts the back easily. You don't need the other pounds. These take less to fill up, so the less air it takes, the more air that's in your tank. 2,500s work great on the back, especially in the application that I'm using. So 2,500s in the back. I use 2,600s for the front. And the 2,600 bags work great with the VeloWorks lower drop pockets, because VeloWorks lower drop pockets are a little bit wider than most of those you find online. So that gives that extra clearance around the bag when it's deflated. So something to be thinking about whenever you go to buy those drop pockets. They may be cheaper on eBay by a couple bucks, but you'll want that extra clearance. So we'll be talking all about VeloWorks drop pockets later on. We'll be talking about VeloWorks do-it-yourself slam kit on the next episode. So I got these bags out of here because I want to show you how I mount these to that KP component step notch. We've got to make a template. We have to do a couple different things to bolt these in correctly in the right placement. So let's do that. All right, so I just wanted to show you a little bit how this works with this KP component step notch. So we're going to be mounting the bag in the factory spring bracket. And as you can see on the trailing arm, it's right in this hole right here. So this bag is going to mount right there, exactly where the factory spring was. But when this goes up, it's going to go up against this KP component step notch. And we need to install this bag directly to this step notch. The reason we don't use a cup is because when the trailing arm comes up, if there's a cup there, then it's not going to allow us to go all the way up into the notch. So that's why we use a 4-inch block, and then we mount this bag directly to the frame so we can get the most drop without coming into a bind. So to give you kind of a visual of what I was just talking about, when this trailing arm goes up, you can see that it will go all the way up into here. But if we had a cup here, it would max it out, and see how much of a difference a cup would make. So we need to mount this bag directly to this KP components step knot. And the way we do that is since it is bolted to the factory position in the trailing arm, all we have to do in the frame here, there's still the hole that the factory spring bolted into. All we have to do is mark that on the back side of this cap. We can take the cap off and we'll see where the center of the mark is. That's where the center of this bag needs to go. And then we can drill the holes to mount the bag there. So the way we figure out where this bag will bolt to this KP component step notch is I'm going to use a little spray paint, and I'm going to spray into where the factory spring hole was. And then I'm going to take this cap off, and you'll see a round circle, and that will mark exactly where the center of where this bag needs to be. So we're going to make a template of the top of this bag. And then once we find the center, then I can mark and find out where I need to drill my holes into this cap to mount this bag directly to the cap, through the frame, and then into the trailing arm. So I know that might sound a little complicated, but just watch me do it. It's not as complicated as it seems. The first time I did it, I didn't use a template and it was a little tricky, but on no association, I used a template out of parchment paper and it went way smoother than it did the first time. So here you go, just follow along and let's get this done. So just take any kind of spray paint that you have laying around that's not black that you can spray in there and mark the hole. Just like that, do it on both sides. And again, all that is doing is making a mark on this cap where exactly the center is, so we know where to center our bag. Now we're just gonna unbolt this cap piece because this is what we're gonna be mounting the bag to. As you can see, there's a little paint circle right there. That's the center of where a bag is gonna go. Okay, we have the center of this bracket here, but what we need to do is find out how we're gonna bolt this to this. We know where the center is, we know where it needs to go, but how do we know where to drill these holes here? We also need to drill a hole for where the air fitting is gonna go through here as well. So this is where we have to use a template. So this is just parchment paper. You probably have some in your cabinet that you didn't even know about. Just ask your wife. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this on top of the bag and I'm gonna mark where all the holes are and I'm gonna cut them out and use it as a template to then place on this and mark and drill all my holes into this. So that way I can know where to drill the holes, where to make my marks, and how to get this bolted up first try. Okay, with a little help from the shop manager, Phoebe, we've got this template drawn up. So this is the center mark. So what I'm gonna do is just measure where the center of this hole is, and I'm gonna mark it on the other side. Last time I just drilled a hole directly through the middle, and that showed me where the center is. And then what I'm gonna do is, once I have the center, I'm gonna put that center mark on there, and then I'm gonna spin this around to get exactly where we want to bolt these holes, because we have to be aware of where this air hole is going to be, because we're going to have to run an air line to it. We don't want it too close to the frame rail, and we don't want it back here in the corner. So I'll explain a little bit of that once we get our template marked. Okay, so this is the center right here. So we've got that marked. So I think last time I lined up this hole right here and it put me very close to center, and then I just drilled this hole right here. We want to be aware where the big air line is going to go, the air fitting that's going to go through here. So we want it about right here, because that's going to be easy to access from the side of the frame like this. So I think that's about where we want it. That should give us where our cuts are. So we're gonna use the step drill bit to drill a large hole into this. That's where the air line is gonna go through, and a smaller hole here. And these two will be where the bag brackets go. So it'd be very much like this when it's bolted up, just like that right there. So Zach has one of these fancy vices, which I don't have at the house. You see me clamping things down to that woodworking table and them flopping around all over the place. So this should help, especially as we drill these holes. So I want enough of a gap here because I'm using a step drill bit. That way I don't drill into the vise. That's what it's going to look like when you're done. That's the two holes for the bag bracket. And then that's the center hole for the air fitting. Everything fits. Now we're gonna bolt it back up. We'll use these marks to drill the holes all the way through the frame. As you can see, after we bolted this back up, we've got the 3 holes that we need to now drill through that bracket into the frame, because we're gonna bolt the bag all the way through the frame into the bag, and then the bigger hole is gonna have the air fitting going all the way through the frame, and it'll connect above the frame. So let's drill those holes and mount the bag up. So we've got the holes drilled up through here, up through the frame, and now I'm gonna take the bag and I'm gonna bolt it in through the frame, through the bracket. It's just like that, bolts directly to the frame. Show you the back side. Bolts through the frame into the bag, and you can see there's a hole there that will have the fitting that comes through it, and that's it. And the bottom of the bag will bolt in to the factory position with a 3.5-inch bolt.